Cool.
All right, we're bringing back the conversation of sales. We got Darren with us again. We're going to be talking about doing sales yourself versus hiring reps, pros and cons of that. Darren, enlighten us on doing sales for yourself first.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is probably a little bit biased. Now it's proven because I of course have tried and tested it myself, but I believe that everyone needs to do sales themselves at one point of their career. I'm not saying their whole career, but any point of their career, they need to do sales themselves. The reason being, like say, even if you are like a master specialist, fulfilling for your clients, you're absolute, animal at that, you can crush it, whatever it may be. But that is for the current dynamics of your market,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Right.
that's eventually going to change. And the only way you can see that change is when you are actively selling. Why? Because you're actively getting feedback on the way that of the pain points, right? The challenges that people are facing right now. Another thing is it's also now how they communicate or interpret this again challenge or pain point, which then allows you to speak their language when you're doing the marketing material and or fulfillment.
Man,
So
so glad you said that. Keep going. I love this already. Yeah. Awesome.
yeah. So definitely selling yourself and stepping back into the sales role every now and then is crucial for every business. I mean, if you, it's like, if, Steve Jobs, for example, had an Android phone, like that would be the craziest thing in the world, right? You need to use your products
Yeah.
in all times. And of course, selling it, if you will. So, doing sales yourself, and another reason why I think it's extremely, beneficial. The cons, we'll get to those in a second, but one of the reasons why it's beneficial, besides the ones I just talked about, is that there's not going to be any sales rep more passionate than you.
Right.
Plain
True.
and simple. Yeah, there's definitely going to be ones better than you, probably. But more passionate than you, it's impossible. It is your offer, it's your baby, right? No one's going to take care of it like you,
Yeah.
right?
Right. True.
And I know we kind of talked about like already about the sales, expectations, right? Things of that nature. But when you're selling yourself, you set expectations up,
Mhm.
right, for the rest of your sales team or your future sales team when they come along. You can talk from experience. Salespeople, they kind of treat their managers, right, or their directors, whatever it may be, how an athlete would treat their coach.
Right.
What I mean by that is that, if I have a soccer coach, but they never step on the soccer field, they never um, watch a soccer game, like they don't eat, breathe soccer, right, the way I do. They
Right.
just maybe, saw a movie about soccer, read a book about soccer, and then decided to become a soccer coach and get all their certifications. I'm not going to have the same level of respect as someone who, and they don't need to be a phenomenal soccer coach, a soccer player in their past, but they know the game, they live the game, they were in the game, they tried it, whatever, right? Um, so that's another reason why. So for your future, right, you can again set out the expectations on how the call should be, how it should be structured, all that good stuff. But also when you're teaching that forward, you can talk from a place of experience and authority versus like, hey, by the way, I read this book which like
Yep.
taught me
Easily.
how to sell. So it's extremely important to do it yourself. That's the point I'm trying to get at.
Dude, I have I've said that in so many different ways, and I think you just nailed it, being able to like solidify that way of thinking. Because like there's people that just want to outsource sales right from the start. And I get it. I get that because sales can be kind of intimidating and it's scary to like, especially if you're running paid ads, right? You're running paid ads, you pay $100 per call, you butcher the calls. Now you just wasted $100 on this call. But in reality, if you're taking the time to reflect on what went right, what went wrong, and be able to make the next $100 call or whatever, maybe the next one's $200, you better be ready for you to do well, because the person that might be a hired gun, like you said, is not going to care as much. So I feel like there's so many different reasons why you should do sales yourself, and I think you just solidified all of that in one like Darren speech, and it was amazing. So like definitely resonate with that, man, big time, big time. So um what are the
And
cons of doing? Oh,
yeah,
good. Go for it.
and then and before I get to the cons, real quick, because I know, a lot of people are gonna say kind of like it's not my personality, it's not who I am, it's I mean, you name it. So, I mean, like I said, I tried and tested this, theory myself. Like, my brother and myself, we're both introverts by nature. So we like to be by ourselves. We're not lonely people or anything like that. It sounds crazy because I'm an athlete too, right? But like, I think best when I'm by myself. Like, I'm not like the star of the party or anything like that. By any means, I learned to be through sales because I learned to come out of my shell.
Yeah.
But it really doesn't matter what personality type you are because you can still be successful in sales, right? As long as, of course, you focus on the proper things that you should be doing and the skill set in itself, which is a beautiful thing. And then when it's time to move out of it, you'll move out of it. And then it's funny, you'll find yourself in situations where you'll use those sales skills for other areas of your business that you maybe didn't think of. Like, for example, my brother, he's in, tech, data analyst, something like that. It's over my head. However, he did a little bit of sales, in his career before launching his current career, and now he's like leading teams and structuring things very similar to how he was doing it while he was in sales, which is pretty cool.
Nice. Okay.
Um, so the skill set itself is very translatable. Now, to talk about the cons, well, obviously you're finite with time, so you're finite with the number of sales calls you can take,
Right.
which obviously limits your growth, plain and simple. Um, so the other con is also fairly, pretty obvious, is that you're also, can only get so good in sales, right? Like if you're not, if that's not your cup of tea, that's not what you do, you might get good enough to, consistently just hit the KPIs, the standard, the industry standards, which is good. Like that's phenomenal. You're doing what you're supposed to, right? You might every now and then hit a little bit above, which is it's probably because it's your passion, right? It's what you love to do, and you work a little harder to get there.
Right.
But versus someone who is just more skilled at the job, that is what they're supposed to be doing, they love sales, it's their passion, you know they'll quickly outrank you, which is fine. That's
Yeah.
why you hired
Good
them.
thing. Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point. Yeah.
So those are really the two biggest cons that I see. It's just your limit of growth, meaning with just time itself. It also means you can't spend as much time fulfilling your clients. So instead of being able to take for example 6 calls a day, you can only take 3 or 4 because you need the other time to fulfill your clients, right? um, but also the skill set wise, right? Because like say for again, you're taking 4 calls a day, and you may be like say, just for easy math, you're closing, one, so you're closing at 25%. The person who is just again better at the job, it's what they do, right? The new sales rep that you hire, in the same 4 calls, they're closing two, right? Which is way more, right? So just overall productivity will slow down.
Yeah, that's true, man. I was listening to a training, and honestly, I totally forgot about this. The cons, I was thinking like, yeah, it's you're probably not gonna be as good. That was like pretty much like the my cons list. But I totally forgot this conversation that you reminded me of. Do you know who Billy Jean is marketing? Do you know who that guy is? Um,
No, no.
pretty big in the online marketing space, but I've taken a few courses from him, and um and whatever, but he made it a good point, because like once you focus on sales, great, you get some sales, now you're focused on fulfillment, then your sales start to tank, but then you start to focus back on sales, your fulfillment goes to tank. So it's like, man, that's so true. I didn't even think about that as part of the cons list. So definitely that's something to keep in mind, being able to, unless you're working all the way till 2 a.m every morning, waking up at 6 for sales calls. Like I'm in PST, you're in EST, right? So like 6 a.m is like great. I've been awake for an hour or two for you, but for me, I'm still like, what? So Darren, what's your problem, man? What's the issue? And then I'm still like trying to
Right.
wake up. So, but yeah, that's hilarious, man. I love that.